Hey, how's it going? Today I'm going to be talking about CBDCs, central bank digital currency, and what that is. CBDC stands for Central Bank Digital Currency. It's a digital form of the country's national currency, which is issued and regulated by the country's central bank. CBDCs are different from cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin in the way they are typically issued and controlled by a central authority, such as government or central bank, and are designed to function as legal tenders just like physical cash. It's designed to replace physical cash. Uh, that's a good example to compare to, but the design is to to replace the digital cash. We're having more. Most of the transactions already been done online compared to how many transactions have been done over the counter with cash actually changing hands. So it is perhaps moving from or to gold, physical gold, from physical gold and having reserve of gold, and gold being staying in the bank and having paper notes to represent the gold, losing gold within the reserve, and now we have transaction into digital monetary way of seeing things than perhaps going to digital, where if there's gonna be any gold now, that's my question. Is gonna represent anything, or we're gonna be building everything on trust that what amount of money that we have received for work that we have done, we're gonna have to have some trust that we're gonna take that money to a shop and we would be able to spend that money and purchase goods or services. CBDCs can take various forms, including retail. CBDCs, this is digital currency that is available to be general, public, and can be used for everyday transactions, similar to physical cash. Retail CBDCs are often used as a way to modernize the payment system, increase financial inclusion, and enhance the efficiency of payments. I don't know how many of people up there have been struggling with how fast the payments were to be made, other than perhaps transacting or sending money between countries. But other than that, if you're making money for milk, bread, like eggs or something like that, most of the people never had this problem. There wasn't any problem. Let's do not invent any problems that wasn't there in the first place. I believe it's called. I can cover that in a little bit later. I believe it's called Lightning Network. How fast you would be able to make transactions, but there are different obstacles within different systems of how fast and how much it will cost to make those transactions. The problem was invented that most of the people perhaps didn't knew about, and how we're looking to solve that problem within cryptography and all of that. But I can cover that a little bit later. What when I'm talking about money and when I'm talking about new systems taking place, replacing traditional systems of payments, how to structure payments, how to structure your finances when it comes to business. Uh, who I'm talking to, ideally I'm talking with people who in the future will be planning of starting a business. They would require to have those systems to protect themselves, to protect their finances, right? So most of the people, if they're living from pay slip or from check to check, I guess it's good to understand this kind of principles and understand how to structure those finances and all the hard work that it could be required to accomplish that. But other than that, hopefully everyone would learn and perhaps start implementing those systems. So that's the reason why I'm sharing all this information for. But there isn't that many businesses up there, most of the time. uh, let's say, for instance, if we're talking about £5,000, dollars, euros, might not be required to have such a complex systems in place. When we're talking about hundreds of thousands, or then we're talking about larger sums of money and how to structure those systems, right? So there we can avoid any errors, as well as we could potentially looking to prevent some of the mistakes happening. That's where we're looking. So it's kind of, I guess it's challenging, but it might be a waste of time for large percentage of general public, I guess. I hope everyone would start a business and manage even larger sums of money. So, and people who I'm talking to, hopefully, at least, at the very least, they would know the reason why I'm talking about it. Wholesale CBDCs, this form of CBDCs is typically used for interbanks or large value transactions. Uh, there are some projects up there who have tried that. There's one in Japan, which I believe one of the largest holder, but it's slightly different project, not one that I'm discussing right now, but how to move money between banks and how to do that very fast is, I believe, initially perhaps one of the reasoning why they would be looking to replace current systems to a more effective way of, perhaps if we're talking about sending actual gold, physical gold from one bank to another, can take time. But if not sending actual gold, what else can we send, and how those banks or financial institutions looking to solve some of those issues, sending transaction value between each other, and how fast they can do it, as well as they need to do it securely and safely, making sure they would eliminate any risk. It's primarily designed for settlement purpose between financial institutions and central banks, improving the efficiency and security of financial markets. CBDCs have gained significant attention from central banks and governments around the world as they explore the potential benefits of digital currencies, including reduced transaction costs. It depends on. It depends, as I mentioned to you before. There's a potential there, and not depending on what project we're talking about. Some of those transaction costs can be very high compared to the current way. Uh, I cannot say companies, but currently I believe the card that most of the people have in their wallet, they can take up to 200 transactions, but they're looking to increase that number to perhaps 2,000 or even more transactions that they could process with some of these digital currencies. But the cost of processing those transactions, that's amount fee that you would need to cover. Currently, we're looking to solve this issue, but currently it might be very large in comparison. Increased transparency and enhance control over monetary policy. However, in implementation of CBDCs also raising an important question about privacy, security, and potential impact of traditional banking systems. For those of you who would like to learn more, have published a book. Name of the book is Game Strategy. In the book, I'm sharing a lot of information, which I believe is important for many people out there who would be interested, or perhaps currently doing research with regards what will be required for you to start a business. I'm trying to boil down to all fundamentals, all the basic information. So it's a reader-friendly, beginner-friendly information for those of you who are just starting out. So in the beginning of the chapter, I'm starting very slowly, and I'm increasing and progressing to making it very advanced, challenging, perhaps investor level information. So for someone who's just starting out, as well as for someone who has been within the industry for some time, who have business perhaps, as well as advanced level, perhaps investor and looking for industry trends, where everything is shifting and where other things are moving. I would highly recommend to purchase this book. You can find this book in the description below, as well as top retailers has it. Then looking at some of its projects, when we're talking about digital currencies, if there's anything I can cover or bring your attention to, differences between centralized and decentralized, so that people out there could understand very fundamental principles. The centralized authority. Centralized authority refers to a single entity, organization, or institution that has significant control, power, or influence over a particular system, organization, or government. This authority often plays a central role in making important decisions and setting policies. If I'm a business owner, I prefer to have centralized authority. Business works a lot better, right? Uh, most of the time. Most of the time. In the context of governance, central authority can be government, a regulatory body, a central bank, or an institution that experience significant control over a specific domain, such as monetary policy, law enforcement, and public administration. Central authorities typically have the legal and institutional framework to enforce their decisions and directives. Now, let's take a look at decentralized authority, or I call it 51 percentage. 51, that means there's decentralized. When we talk about someone having 51% control of majority control in governance, we are referring to ability of the person or entity to make decisions and influence outcomes by owning and controlling more than 50% of relevant voting power, shares, or assets. In many decision-making processes, particularly in the corporate governance, achieving 51% of control means having enough voting power to pass or veto resolutions and determine the direction of the organization. It's important to note that 51% control doesn't necessarily mean absolute control, as where may be other stakeholders with varying degree of influence and control. That's summary of overall process. It's not ideal summary, but that's overall how you can understand centralized and decentralized control. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.